so don't fuck my back. Hello and welcome. Today is Monday, January 11th, 2016. I'm your host, Rashiwi, and this is episode 10 of Q Popped. This is the last episode of Q Popped for a while, as I'm having my first child on Friday, and I don't know how long I'll be out. If you want to find out when we'll be back, check out my Twitter, at Rashiwi. Today on the show, our guest is Talby, aka Healingstat, who is a two-time BlizzCon runner-up, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff we'll talk about when we get into. He's on Team Skillcapped EU. But first, let's give you guys a little bit of news. On Wednesday, January 6th, Blizzard officially announced that it acquired the business of Major League Gaming. We talked about this a little bit of last week, but this is Blizzard's official announcement. Mike Cespo, Senior Vice President of Activision Blizzard Media Networks and MLG co-founder, said, "Sundance and I founded MLG to highlight the incredible talent of competitive gamers all over the world. Activision Blizzard's esports leadership, incredible intellectual property, and long history in competitive gaming create a perfect home for MLG's capabilities. The acquisition of MLG's business is an important step towards Activision Blizzard Media Network's broader mission to bring esports into the mainstream by creating and broadcasting premium esports content, organizing global league play, and expanding distribution with key partners." Just a long-winded way of saying they're pretty excited. We were also talking last week, and I said I was sad that MLG was going to be gone. And it appears that is not the case. They also announced that MLG will continue to operate MLG.TV, MLG Pro Circuit, and the Game Battles platform. I don't know much about the Game Battle platform, but the Pro Circuit is used to be live, and they said that they were probably going to start going and doing live stuff again. They also say we will continue to work with MLG's partners and other publishers across the industry. MLG.TV is a premium online broadcast network for a professional level esport, and the MLG Pro Circuit is the longest running esports league in North America. Game Battles is the largest online gaming tournament across consoles, PC, and mobile platforms. So they're very proud of themselves. In tournament news, this past week, GCD TV with D Machine hosted tournament number 4 of its 9-tournament bi-weekly Pro League. The qualifiers started the weekend off in a very interesting finish as Team Holy Crow, the name is a nod to GCD's own D Machine, consisting of Supatees, who also cast, Losa, and Taz. They qualified one of the series. They played Balanced Druid, Warrior, and Resto Druid. They also played LSD3 and Turbo Cleave. So they got a lot of stuff, but it was just very interesting to see a double Druid. Following the qualifiers, I didn't think that a double Druid comp winning would be anything would top that. But boy, was I wrong. Because if you followed it, you'll know where I'm going with this. In the upper bracket, Cloud9 convincingly makes it to the finals, taking out Super T's Holy Crow team, Walter Beer's Team Splice, and Beanslayer's team, which is Please Sponsor Us. Meanwhile, the crowd favorite, yet seemingly underdog, based off past week's performances, the team of Method Orange, who this week consisted of Sidu, Smexon, and Snuts, who played only Warrior Lock Shaman in the tournament, loses in the upper bracket to rivals Tempo Storm, and they're sent to the lower bracket. It looks like it might be a repeat of the previous weeks with the team, but then they prove that they're not out of it yet, and they 3-0 Method Black. Method Black is Absur's Frozen Chicken Cleave. Method Orange then faces Team Splice, Walter Bear's Jungle Cleave. They play Jungle Cleave versus WLS the whole time. And in a long, drawn-out series, Method Orange wins 3-2 over Team Splice. They then sweep Tempo Storm, Please Sponsor Us, and Cloud9 without dropping a single game, going 9-0 to become Week 4's tournament victors. This is a big game for them as they won the tournament with the 3-man roster, didn't switch any comps to face the counters. They didn't try to counter pick, and maybe that's a good thing because team synergy is such an important thing in this game. Many critics of the older players who deem Snuts and Sea-Doo washed up, you'll see a lot in chat. In my mind, they'll have to seriously consider their feelings after that tournament, but I'm sure the haters won't stop hating. I'd also like to congratulate GCD TV on a well-done tournament, peaking over 19,000 viewers at one time. It was awesome. The chat was spamming Sea-Doo Take My Energy the whole time. Of course, I think Sea-Doo hosted him. I think Vinruki hosted him, even though he was in Mexico. And I think Mitch Jones hosted him at one point. So some big players, hosting them, and some people were saying that maybe that's a bad thing. I don't think that's a bad thing. We'll talk a little bit about that later. Let me make sure that Talby is still here. And are people here? Is my chat working, or are we broke? Can't tell. I think my chat's broke. Oh well. Maybe message me on BattleNet if you can hear me then. Well, I don't see anything. Unless nobody said anything. Then say something in chat. Let me make sure. Are you here? It was a very riveting weekend. I was taking my wife out to dinner for her birthday. Her birthday's not for 2 weeks. And since she's going to have a baby on Friday, I thought she probably wouldn't be able to do anything for a while, so we'd go ahead and do it early. I'm going to go ahead and try to call Talby, see if we can't get him in here. A podcast? That's right. I'm breaking away from the podcast.
Hello?
Hi.
Hey.
Let's see.
Okay. There we go. Is that working?
Yeah.
Cool.
Let me fix it real quick.
Just so you know, I've never done a podcast before, so I'm not entirely sure what's involved, but yeah. I'm sure it would be.
Mostly I'm going to interview you and
Okay.
get your thoughts on a couple things. Go from there.
Okay, sure.
I'd like to start out by doing an introduction. This is Adrian, a.k.a. Talby, a.k.a. Healingstat. He is a two-time runner-up of BlizzCon. He placed second place at BlizzCon 2015, playing RMD and Shatterplay with Raikou, Pry, and Valai. You might have seen them this year. He placed second place at BlizzCon 2014, playing God Comp with Zuniaki and No Lifer. He has won 4 ESL weekly tournaments, and he also took third place in the Yaz Presents tournament with Zepai and Katsura. Multiple rank 1 titles on Resto Druid, Shadow Priest, and Holy Paladin. Generally most known for his Resto Druid, but I think more maybe your Holy Paladin this season. And he's also had Gladiator on Frost Mage and Resto Shaman. So one heck of a resume. I'd like to start off by asking you, how'd you start playing WoW, and then how did you get into PvP?
So my friend introduced me to WoW, like one of my real life friends, and we played it pretty casually. Like it was just one of many games that we played, and then we always our favorite thing to do was always once we actually leveled up, which did take us quite a while, it was go to low level zones and gank people. So we never really had a PvE oriented history.
What expansion did you start playing during?
I started during BC, but I only hit max level in Warthog at the very start.
Okay. Where did the name Talby come from?
So initially my name was my characters were always Healingstat, Magic Stat characters like this. But given I've mained a Shadow Priest for almost the whole time I played WoW, I was quite a Talbot fanboy in Cataclysm, and I first made my druid in Cataclysm, so I named it after him.
Yeah, I was linking your stuff around to some people that they PvP but maybe don't watch the competitive scene all that much, and especially maybe the EU players, and they all ask me, "Oh, is it Talbot?" Every time I'm like,
Yeah,
"No."
I get
So
that every now and
I
then.
think it was probably a good choice to start going by Healingstat again.
Yeah, I think it was a little upsetting for me that they didn't allow me to be consistent over the 2 years with my name, because I would rather have consistency so that people identify me as the same person. But
Build a brand
I
type of
think,
thing.
yeah, exactly. But I think Healingstat's a better brand to build, even if the name isn't fantastic, just because it is a different name.
What was your first class that you ever played that you leveled up?
Uh, the first character I ever played was a mage, but the first one I hit max level on was a priest.
When did you start getting competitive and start really taking PvP seriously?
So uh, I was a big PV during the majority of Cataclysm, and perhaps a little bit of Mob, but not very much. Actually, I think it was just Cataclysm actually. And uh, towards the end of Cataclysm, the PvE gear was really strong on DPS classes,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, even though I was in the top PvE guild, I always had PvP aspirations, and a few of the people that were of the best players on my server picked me up, mainly because of my PvE gear, but they wanted to see how it went, and then we clicked and we played together. Well, we still play together today sometimes. So uh,
So what?
towards late Cataclysm and early Mob, we got towards Gladiator rank 1 level.
So you said you're talking about the damage stats for. So were you playing a DPS that first
Yeah,
gladiator?
my main character since almost when I started till about season 14, season 15, it was my Shadow Priest. I only started playing Resto Druid competitively just before BlizzCon
I see.
because healers were in more demand.
You have you competed as a shadow priest?
I have played in tournaments as a Shadow Priest, not offline, but I haven't had a great deal of success.
Some of the
I'm
ESL tournaments.
actually, yeah, I'm actually planning on playing in the next GCD on US as Shadow Priest.
Oh, well, I can't wait to see that. That'll be a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, I hope so.
Well, I was just about to ask how you became a healer, and I assumed it was because everybody needs a healer, and like you
Yeah.
said, that's exactly why. Do you have any really fond memories from WoW? Like
Uh,
something really nostalgic you think back to?
well, I mean, like I had a lot of fun when I was progressing. I was playing with Shake Milk and Banana Split, who was an EU mage and an EU Holy Paladin, respectively. And uh, I went from personally being like a 2.2k player to like a multi-rank 1 player, just playing with those guys in the matter of 2 seasons or so. So like that was a really fun journey, and we have a lot of great memories together.
To get to
And I'm
relive.
really happy that I can still play with them. But
That is good.
I also have good memories on when I started out on my Rested Dread, because like initially when I started healing, it was because uh, there was like a lot of demand for healers on my battle group. The battle group wasn't so active, so I played it with a great deal of failure at first, but then I played it a lot, and since there wasn't that many healers, like a lot of good mains on the BG were willing to play with me, and it meant that I improved quite quickly.
Were you
And yeah,
were you worried when you picked up these other classes that you would have any kind of trouble, or maybe you would never be as good as your Shadow Priest, or when you picked up Holy Paladin, you never be as good a healer as your Resto Druid? You just go into that thinking I'm going to learn it as much as I can and do the best I can, and I'll be the best.
well, when I first started playing my Resto Druid, it wasn't with a competitive intention. Like I never intended on maining Resto Druid, and I was actually slightly upset when uh, my Shadow Priest I had to stop playing Shadow Priest because I had to go full time try harding on Druid to practice for BlizzCon. But initially, like it was never like that. Obviously, once it was apparent I was good enough, and No Life and Iñaki asked me to play, then it became really. And there were moments, of course, where I felt like I'm not good enough for these guys. These guys are BlizzCon finalists last year. Zunyaki's got a history at these events, like being one of the best players of all time, if not the best. And suddenly those kinds of thoughts would have gone through my mind.
Yeah, I wondered. It's really impressive to me. There's not a whole lot of players that can compete at that level in multi-class. I can only think of a couple, but and not made it to BlizzCon twice, playing two different mains. So that's really impressive to me. So, um,
Uh, One of the nice things about Warlords is actually that although people complain about it simplifying the game, which has its advantages in other ways as well, it certainly does mean that the people that are willing to put in the effort to learning multiple classes do get rewarded for it, because it's not so difficult. Like it was harder in previous expansions for sure.
that's good at multiple levels too. I mean, the top level,
Mhm.
but also if you want to play casually and your friends play a certain class, you can kind of comp around that and play with them. Maybe a little bit lower, maybe 2200 or something. Well, how much have you looked into Legion? Have you played the alpha at all, or?
I haven't played the alpha, although I hear there was only a quest line, or actually they've introduced more to the alpha now, right?
Yeah, I believe they introduced some stuff, but not really any PvP. But have you read up
Mm.
on the new PvP talents and the new honor system and all that?
So I streamed for a little bit, and when I did, like all these alpha notes were coming out, and they did get linked to me. I read a few of them. I mainly read the Shadow Priest ones, and I saw they having a void form and stuff, and it looked quite exciting. I've also heard that they're making multiple PvP abilities into talents, so things like Cyclone are going to be talents
Right.
that you actually choose. So I think that could be quite exciting to see what the actual alternatives they think will be viable to compete with Cyclone now. But yeah, it's all very exciting. I'm not sure. They're making a lot of changes all the time with Alpha, so that's why I'm not so uh, like I don't keep a close eye on it, because I expect everything to change in a month, you know.
Right. What are your
But
thoughts on not having to grind gear anymore? Is that a bad thing or a good
yeah,
thing? Or?
I think I like that. Yeah. Although I heard you have to grind your specializations or your talents or something
Mm-hmm.
instead, which
Yeah.
is something similar, I guess.
I think the way it looks though, you'll be able to like prestige and reset it and get certain rewards and
Mm,
stuff. So I think if you wanted to, play at the top level, you could just get the very first set and sit on that until you have like a week where you're bored, and then you can
yeah.
grind out the other stuff for fun. They've also said that seasons are going to be a lot shorter,
Okay, that's really nice.
which I think everybody wants because
Hmm.
this season is going to be like almost
Yeah,
a
it's going to
year.
be quite long.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's going to be terrible.
yeah. I like the prestige system. I had heard about that as well, because it sounds like the thing for me is perhaps I have fun farming gear the first time on my first character.
Right.
And like for example, my main character, my Shadow Priest, like I take quite a lot of pride in trying to get it its title each season and trying to get it. I have in the past been like quite keen on earning achievements and all this stuff. So like for me, that character means like something, you know, because I've had it for years and years and years since I started pretty much.
So maybe you'll want
But
to do the
yeah,
prestige
yeah.
and
So
stuff on your.
so doing prestige
Yeah.
on that is nice. But then when it comes to my fifth old or something, especially if I'm multi-classing a lot, if I'm playing multiple characters, it's not so fun to do the honor grind the fifth time on a healer or something like.
Yeah.
So
Even capping
yeah,
every
that is really
week.
nice. Yeah, capping every week as well is it's quite a it can be quite a painful experience if you're doing it multiple times. So I think that is a nice system for sure.
Unfortunately, I don't think there's much competitively we can look at, but for Legion anyway. But I guess Blizzard they bought out MLG. They've got this new uh, esports league that they're talking about. They hired the former ESPN CEO, so I'm hoping that there will be some cool stuff and they'll dump some money into WoW esports. But unfortunately, I think they're probably going to put it in their other games. But
Yeah, they're putting a lot of effort into heroes, and I imagine Overwatch is going to get good treatment when it becomes an esport as well.
yeah, I do too. Have you played Overwatch?
No, I haven't, but I've seen other people playing it. I'm not personally so into those types of games, but it does look like a lot of fun for those who.
Yeah, I actually don't like shooters at all. and I watched people and thought it looked kind of boring. But then I got into the
Mm.
weekend beta, and it felt so fun. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like you,
It's not like majority of other shooters. Like it's got a
yeah,
lot of team play and stuff as well, I think.
yeah, just kind of oriented around fun more than anything.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, that too.
So you've been in ESL, and you said you're going to be in GCD TV. That's pretty cool. Do you did you watch the GCD TV tournament over this past weekend?
Yeah, I watched the one this weekend quite a lot. I've had a few busy weekends, so I didn't get to catch all the other ones, although I've certainly seen some games and I've watched some VODs of it as well. But I was really excited to see how positively it's growing, and especially this week it hit its record viewers at 18K or so,
It
from
broke.
what I saw, which was really exciting.
They came out with a stat later and said it broke 19K at one point.
Yeah, exactly, which is
Um,
really, really, really good.
and like I said before, I think a lot of that's because they get people like Sea and Mitch
Hmm.
Jones who just have all these followers and they host it and get it all hyped up. And some people were saying, "Oh, that's a bad thing," and GCD wouldn't be anything without them, and kind of really trash
Mm.
talking the fact that they're the reason. I don't know if they're just being elitist about it, but to me, I don't care who watches. Any viewership is good for the game.
Yeah, I agree. Overall, like, I don't really mind how GCD gets its viewers within reason, right?
Yeah,
Like, if it gets viewers from certain people playing in it, then that's more than fine by me. Like, I'm really excited for that. In fact, I mean, I
cuckoo clock.
have to say, yeah, I have a quick look. I have to say, uh, some of the people who uh, do watch, like they get very, it's similar to football, right? Like they get very into the personal team that they're supporting. Like a lot of the Sea fans were very fanatic Sea fans, and yeah, we saw on Twitter especially that they got quite um, animated when other people were saying bad stuff, which in its own right, like in their own right, like of course they are able to do that.
Yeah,
Uh, but
there,
yeah,
there was a
like
whole lot
overall, I
of
think it's a really good thing.
there's just a whole lot of drama in WoW over the past week.
Yeah.
I thought it would finally be over, and then there was more last night. So uh,
I'm not up to date with all of it, but I'm aware that there's stuff going on.
yeah. Um, what was your uh, first competition that you ever competed in? You remember?
In WoW,
In WoW.
I played in a little German tournament on my Shadow Priest, which it was like a tiny tournament. It had maybe like 150 euro prize or so,
Did you
and
win?
we came second in it,
Second.
which we earned ourselves like a pizza each or something, like
Yeah.
50,
Yeah.
50 euros, which is nice. But yeah,
Get some
that
experience.
was the
and
first one I ever played.
I'm sure that was fun.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
I enjoyed it.
on the fact that GCD had 20,000 people almost. I guess there was a really big Heroes of the Storm tournament going on at the exact same time with two of the biggest teams, and
Mm.
they only had 10,000 people. So
Oh well,
du-
yeah.
doubled
I
that.
think like Heroes of the Storm, I'm aware that Blizzard put a lot more budget into it, and I guess it's really exciting. Like I mean, I don't personally play the game, but I watched like because it was just before the final at BlizzCon. I watched it, and like when they invest so much uh, into the stage and into the whole experience, it really made it exciting even for me. And I don't play the game at all. I mean, I have a rough idea of what's going on, but yeah, like I think it's really nice. But like it really does outline the achievement of GCD that GCD, which is essentially run by two people with very low budget that have been doing all the hard work themselves. They don't have a huge team or a huge corporation that financially supports them with everything they've got. Like, and they do so well. Like,
Yeah,
it's
their quality,
really inspiring. I really like.
their quality in the past year has gone up so much.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. And
and
it's all because of the effort they've put on, and nothing but that.
I think the biggest thing that they have added to the competitive scene is that the downtime, like at BlizzCon, the downtime of their tournaments is
Mhm.
like minuscule. Because I remember going to like MLGs and stuff like that and watching tournaments, and the downtime would be 30 minutes or an hour.
Yeah.
Like they wouldn't have enough time and resources or know how to get it done. And now I think that's the biggest thing for people, because people just tune out and leave if there's
Mm.
30 minutes of downtime. They'll go watch a different game.
Well, one of the things as well that people don't realize is, or a lot of people don't realize, of course, lots of people do as well, is that Hannah and David, the two people behind GCD TV, were actually asked by Blizzard to admin a lot of the backstage stuff at BlizzCon. And that was one of the reasons that the event was so much more smooth this year than it perhaps has been previously.
Yeah, you could definitely
And
tell.
yeah, it was like, and it is really nice to have people like that dealing with the players, because they're super friendly, they understand the players' needs, and you really feel like they're on your side and they're someone that you can talk to as a competitor. It encourages you to not complain and to get on with it when you have like people like that backstage, which is really, really nice. And of course, they're very organized and they're very passionate about what they're doing, so the whole thing goes very smoothly.
And I think the other kind of front end, I mean, we see like downtime is affected by them, but the rest of the quality's gone up so much. I checked out
Mm-hmm.
like a couple of years ago, and it's like a Zell casting, and they're not in a suit, they're not in a tie, they don't have a super professional stage or anything like that. It's kind of just them sitting in front of a computer, and now you watch and it's like you could be watching any game. You would have no idea
Yeah.
if you're just seeing that stage. Like you'd think you were watching some major sports channel without
Yeah,
tuning
one
in.
of the funny things actually was that I remember Venruki and co talked to me backstage, like the commentators Venruki, Law, and Vihal,
Hmm.
and they actually said that the Heroes of the Storm people, who were on the same stage as the WoW players and on the same stage as the WoW, they actually had to redress because Venruki and co outdressed them, like they were a lot smarter. So
Wow,
the Heroes of the Storm commentators actually changed their outfits
wow, that's a
so
really
that
interesting story.
they wouldn't get outdone, which is I thought was quite funny,
Well, that's good. I
and
mean,
they certainly enjoyed it.
it steps everybody up.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
I think adding the Bajir's role,
yeah, yeah.
to kind of
All the casters were amazing.
his
Visuals.
role in general, like the back to the casters thing, like
Yeah,
making it a
exactly.
filler, giving you a few minutes to get the other team set up, and it's not
Yeah,
just the same couple people sitting there and talking about the games. But
yeah. They had a really good balance because you have people like Venruki and Super T's who are like top players in the game, giving quite detailed analysis at points, and then Bajira, who also has a very good understanding of the game. He did a really good job of making some of the plays like in slow motion with the replays. Like he was making it more accessible to people that perhaps didn't catch it the first time and didn't know
a lot more
what the key
casual.
points of a matchup were. Yeah, the people who like might be really into WoW esports, but perhaps they haven't got the same experience or they haven't
Right.
played it so long. So
A lot more
like he
casual
like he,
friendly.
yeah, exactly, that kind of like analysis like really helps the esport, because it means for those people it's a lot more interesting because they then understand, because even before the games he was saying to some extent what you want to look out for in the game, and I think that really does help. So
And again, having people like Venruki and people like Bajira who have this huge following on Twitch come on there. I mean, I think that
mm,
helps them too. If everybody on there is Lore and VHL, who they're pretty famous in WoW, but if you're kind of a newer player, you're not going to know who those guys are. So if you see a familiar face, I think that makes it
yeah,
better. That
yeah,
makes you want
I
to
agree.
stick with it. And I will say, Majira is awesome at BlizzCon, but I sure wish he would get a
Mm,
BlizzCon quality mic for his GCD TV tournament, because
mm,
he's so colorful and
yeah,
he's great to
yes.
listen to. But somebody needs to donate him so he can get a new mic. Everybody's
That
listening to
helps.
that. Go donate to Super Tees. Do you have any thoughts on the current meta right now? Any humongous complaints that maybe we don't know about besides Turbo? Or
Well, I mean, I can't really complain about Turbo too much, given Turbo and RMD in my opinion, they're pretty even in terms of like how strong they are as comps. And I mean, I would say something I've been saying the whole expansion is that Resto Druids probably need tuning because they've been dominant for an incredibly long time now. I mean, even though I play one myself, like when I play the other healers, which I do reasonably often, I always feel more comfortable in my druid, and I don't necessarily think it's because I'm better on it, even though I know I'm better on my druid than some of my other classes. I think the reason is often just because it's a lot stronger. Their Blizzard aim to increase the amount of casting, which they've done really well on a lot of classes. And Resto Druids do have to cast a lot more now as well with the removal of instant and soul clones, which is really good for the game. Like, they've done a good job with stuff like that. And they also have to regrowth quite often as well. But the difference between Resto Druids and some other healers is that when they are behind and panicking, they can spam Genesis, which is quite a problem, I think, for the game, because I don't think that's really the kind of gameplay you want to promote. And the fact that it's so strong to do this, and that you can actually out-heal really high burst damage without casting, is a bit of a problem. And I think that's one of the reasons Resto Druids have been so dominant over recent months and years.
Do you think that
since the expansion came out?
The fact that a lot of time they're required to just kind of sit in bear form and tank stuff, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing?
Well, I think doing stuff like pre-bear throwing stuns and deep sheeps and stuff is it's not the easiest thing to do, but I wish at the same time, that it didn't mean you could just sit in bear form to pre-bear form the stuns. Like, you should have to heal outside of it and then go into it like at the right time because you anticipate something's up.
Maybe like a cooldown on it or something, a short cooldown.
Yeah, perhaps, or perhaps just making it less strong, or maybe making the HOTS less strong so that you can't just sit in it the whole time. Because I agree that's not a great play style. But I think against a lot of stuff you can't just sit bear form anymore, especially this patch when damage has gone up again. Sometimes Resto Druids do get punished for misplaying in those kinds of situations, which is obviously a good thing.
I do find it interesting that last season the item level went up 40, and this time it only went up 10. The difference in damage between the seasons on a couple of classes isn't very noticeable after you get your weapon anyway. I don't hardly notice it at all.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what it is, because I expected the same when I play. I mean, maybe it's slightly a placebo effect that I feel like I see my item level going up. I'm taking a lot of damage. I feel like it's more damage or something rather than it actually being more damage. But some classes did get big damage buffs as well at the start of the season, such as warriors and especially elementals.
Right.
And that has changed the game because DKs as well got damage buffs, if I remember right. So a lot of these cleavy comps are doing a lot of damage. LSD is doing a lot of damage, and those comps getting buffed has changed the metagame a little bit. Certainly in Europe, there's a lot of LSD high on the ladder, which there wasn't last season.
And a lot more warriors than there were before.
And there's quite a lot of warriors and a lot of DKs as well.
I think Enhanced Shaman's got a small damage buff, but then they got the healing nerf too.
Yeah,
so Turbo got an overall pretty good buff.
Yeah. That's a kind of positive buff though. Like I like the fact that they buff the damage on a class like Enhance and nerf the healing rather than doing it the other way around, because in my opinion, it makes the gameplay more fun if it's slightly more bursty like that.
Yeah, not going to 60% dampening is a lot better.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
And actually, the only comps that really drag you out to dampening now are some mage comps. Like I see Mage Boomkin and stuff like this going to dampening, not Turbo so much.
Can reset so often.
Exactly.
Somebody did ask, who's the person that you look up to most in WoW, in EU? I know you already said Talby since you're a huge fan of him, but who do you think, besides you of course, who's the best EU player right now?
The best EU player, well, that's a really hard question to answer. Like, certainly the person I admired the most out of all the European players for pretty much ever was Zunyaki, because firstly he was the best at the class I play, which is Priest, and I was honored legitimately so honored to play with him. One of the years, like I was almost shocked because a few months before I was like talking to my friends, like being super fanboy of him, even though obviously I was playing on a really high level as well. It still didn't strike me that that could happen, which was really nice. And then the thing about Zuniaki, which makes him, well, there's two things. Firstly, he's really, really diverse. He's plays disc and shadow at a super high level. He actually played in one of the BlizzCon finals as a resto shaman, which wasn't under ideal circumstances for him, of course, because the expansion changed and the metagame changed. He wouldn't have probably preferred to be on shaman, but he did a really, really good job and performed super well in the games. And also, he's one of these players that can log into the game after a few months and instantly be good. Like, he doesn't play the game after BlizzCon the majority of years, and then he comes back a few months before qualifiers start, and he's just, everyone wants a piece of him. Everyone wants to be playing with him because he's just that good, you know?
And he's got that lane experience and everything built up. Maybe not so many nerves.
So if I did pick a player, like an all-time great from Europe, I would have to say it's him. But of course, there's several others that really stand out right now. You've got people like, all my partners are phenomenal players. People like Raikou and No Lifer have been around a long time, and Raikou quit recently, or quit before BlizzCon. He wasn't playing for a long time, and before that he was really, really good. And No Life was a legendary mage of MoP, like probably the best mage in MoP by quite a distance, I think.
I have to say, I think besides you, everybody hyped Pry so much.
Yeah, Prey is really fucking good as well.
Yeah. Everybody was super impressed with him.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts
he played really, really well as well.
Well, yeah, you guys got second place, and
exactly.
You didn't just get sweeped. You guys played. So it was really interesting how the brackets turned out. Like the semifinals was NA versus EU and NA versus EU, and both EU won. Do you have any thoughts on that, or is EU really that much better, or?
Well, certainly at the time, we were encouraged to hype the EU NA thing for the reason that we're happy that GCD has people like Sidu now. Like, it promotes debate, promotes drama, and it gets viewers, you know, like to. So you all have seen in my interviews, I was trashing NA more than I would normally, just because you know that's the kind of thing that, like,
I loved
gets
it.
Twitch chat excited. Everyone loves that, right? And it's really, really good for esports when you do stuff like that. But overall, I think NA has a lot of very, very good players. The reason EU performs better, certainly the last 2 years, in my opinion, is just because it's a lot more active. On NA, there's normally only 2 or 3 good players for the majority of classes. That's not true of all classes, but like at the top, there's a lot of good top players, but not as many as EU. Like, the player pool is a lot smaller, as you can see from every season. There's a lot less Gladiator and Rank 1 spots. I think that might change for next year because of the impact GCD is having. It's making a lot of teams stick together and improve on their teamwork, and it's also increasing activity and competitiveness, which will be really good for NA WoW Arena, for sure. And in fact, that's something I'm really excited for, if Europe can start to develop these kinds of tournaments in the same way NA did. Traditionally, Twitch viewers seem to favor NA. I think the majority of the viewership must be North American, because I watch a lot of other games as well, and often it's the North American streamers that are more popular. But I think having such tournaments in Europe will be really exciting as well.
Yeah, I wish there were more really big European streamers. I mean, Hydra had a lot of drama and a lot of activity back in the day, but now there's not really anybody to watch, and I don't know, it's a shame. Same with healers. It's rare to find like a Holy Paladin or somebody streaming. I mean, there's not very many healers. I don't know if it's just because they think it's boring to watch, so they don't stream, or what the deal is. But
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, certainly with European streamers, the problem has been that donations typically seem to be lower for European streamers, which I think is for the same reason that perhaps there's less of a tipping culture in Europe, because in the US I know there's quite a big tipping culture. Like, it's standard to tip every meal and everything.
Right.
And it can be like that in Europe as well, but the tipping culture certainly isn't as big. So perhaps people aren't inclined to donate as much, and that obviously gives less incentive to streamers. I also think, as I said, that the majority of the viewership must be from North America. I don't actually have statistics on that, but
It seems
that would
like
be
that
something.
definitely to
Yeah,
me
it
too.
certainly does seem like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Also, when they
but
when they tweet out like, "Who do you think's going to win this
yeah, yeah,
match?" and it's always they
it's
pick
always
the NA
NA.
team or the most
Exactly.
popular team. If it's two
Yeah,
North American teams, it's always the Tempo Storm, or
yeah,
because they've got Jamilian Peekaboo, or it's the Sea-Doo team or Snuts team or something like that. Uh,
yeah, and that's certainly something that's also nice about winning against those teams. Like, you do get a little sense of satisfaction from knowing the fan vote was heavily against you, and then you defy the odds.
yeah.
It's always a nice feeling.
Well, then you become the you get the fan
Yeah,
points
yeah,
for that, or
exactly.
at least you hope. I know Joe Fernandez, his stream is blown
Yeah,
up
yeah. But
after.
that's the other thing I was going to say, that despite uh, the fact that NA streamers do typically do better, there are a couple of exceptions. Certainly, Joe Fernandez is one of them. His stream is always quite popular when he turns it on. It actually peaked at around 3K viewers, I saw at one point in the last week, which is pretty phenomenal for an individual streamer playing competitive high-level WoW. And also Minpoike, obviously, is another example of someone that streams reasonably frequently and does do particularly well on viewers.
But I've definitely noticed that those players have a lot of viewership when the North American players aren't online. But then if
Yeah,
maybe
that
a
was,
Vinderkey or a Seduce logs on, they
yeah.
lose
Then
they
they
lose some of that
typically
stuff.
drop to $1,000. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've noticed this one.
Well, before yesterday, I was going to ask you if you had any thoughts on like older players not performing as well, because like you say, we do have like Sea-Doo, like in the old MLG players and Snuts and Vinderkey, all those guys not really perform in the last year at least, ever since WOD came out. I was
Mm,
going to ask you about that, and then they won the GCD TV
mm,
tournament, and I do think they played exceptionally well. I think maybe those other teams didn't play 100% like as good as they could have played, but I think they earned that win, and I think it's going to
yeah,
be even better for the scene because now they're hyped up and everybody's wanting to watch it. So I think
yeah.
it's good.
Uh, I think especially in Warlords, the main, how do I phrase it? The main factor in a lot of the players that are succeeding is effort and time put in. So a lot of like the way that the expansion works has, at the top, it's meant that a lot of players they're not like, no one's on the same level, I think, but a lot of players are on quite similar levels. So it's the teams that play the most together and work on their strategies the most to pick up perhaps those slight little niches that do the best. So I wouldn't say, I don't really think a lot of the players, like I know the term washed up is used a lot. I don't think
Hmm.
anyone really gets washed up, but perhaps some people find that other expansions, people that have been playing the game 10 years or something, a lot of them find that other expansions perhaps might have been slightly more exciting, and that means either they play less or they try less hard, or especially, and a lot of these players are streamers as well, and streaming does, I'm pretty sure it's a fact that for most people, streaming does distract them from
Yeah, I was just about to
actually
ask that. Yeah.
playing competitively.
Well, and of course, uh, to credit those guys who won yesterday, they did say,
Mm.
I mean, they practiced a whole bunch off stream, and Snut said,
Yeah,
the
exactly.
drama with, he said he wanted to stream while it was going on, and then he ended up not doing that, but
Yeah.
Snut
And
said,
I question if they would have won if they'd streamed it as well. Like, I
yeah,
think they would struggle a lot more.
well, and Snuts told him, I guess, he said, you will not stream my games. He said,
Yeah,
I will not play. If you stream my games, it'll distract me, and I'll be worried that
yeah,
people are
exactly.
watching us lose, and
Hmm.
you don't want to do that.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I completely agree with that.
And then people will just shit on you if you do end up losing while you're streaming.
Yeah, exactly. It is a big distraction, and a lot of people, like I'm guilty of this in the past as well, do watch streams to watch the streamer lose because it's quite exciting when they do lose. Like some people handle it different to others, but sometimes it's quite nice to watch the streamer lose. Like I'm guilty of that pleasure, but I think. Yeah, the fact that they didn't stream it, I was really happy about that. Not only because it increases the quality of the gameplay, which I really do believe in, but also because I don't like the idea of GCD sharing the viewership.
Right.
I know that people like Sea-Doo really do boost the viewership, and it probably is within their right to do it if they wanted to, but the overall benefit to GCD and esports would of course diminish from this.
But of course, then he goes on to win the tournament. He turns on his stream. He's got 22,000
Yeah, exactly.
people
And
watching.
he got more than enough benefit
man.
from it anyways.
I think
so
he probably got $1,000.
I think it worked out for everyone. Exactly.
Yeah, he got tons of money, and same for Snuts. I think that was a good decision not to do that, and they'll go forward. And he said he didn't want to do it, but I mean, it's worth thinking about. Do you want to do that or not? I mean, I don't blame them.
Yeah.
Well, I do have a couple viewer questions people wrote in. Real Chops writes, what do you think about healing being mostly preemptive cooldown use now instead of reactive cooldown use?
Well, it depends which class you play and which comp you play. But yeah, certainly that's with things like Ironbark on Resto Druid and Sacrifice on Paladin, that's something that's you do have to use preemptive, and I really like that kind of thing. And we were talking about it a little bit earlier when I said that it's really nice that druids have to pre-bear from stuns to either avoid CC or avoid damage. I really like that. But I don't think it's a new concept. I think that kind of thing's been in the game a long time. For example, the Priest Shadow or Death mechanic has been in the game since the beginning of time. People discovered it and made the most use of it in Warthog, and since then, of course. Like, these mechanics have been in the game for a long time. They're very good. Of course, they're probably the hardest things to master, and they increase the skill cap of the game the most. So
I think, like Death and Sheep
they are really good things.
I think they're the most interesting thing to watch
Yeah,
as well.
exactly.
Like, it's super fun to see a priest Shadow or Death of Poly or whatever.
Yeah, and I definitely do think those are the mechanics that Blizzard should be promoting in Legion as well.
Yeah. Anna writes, long-time listener, first-time caller, Talby, do you have any rivals or anyone you hate or like to play against?
I mean, honestly, like, when I think about rivalries, one of the advantages of being a multi-classer is that it enables me to play with anyone, right? Like, if you exclusively play healer, like say I exclusively played Resto Druid, then I would become perhaps more rivals with other Resto Druids because I wouldn't necessarily talk to them so much. And, like whenever I meet them as an enemy. But since I've multi-classed, since I'm playing DPS and healer quite often, I haven't played with every player in the game, of course, but I've played with a lot of the people that I often compete against, and I think that's enabled me to develop friendships and enjoy the other people. So I can't really look at them when I enter the arena and be like, I hate that guy. I don't think there's anyone I could say that to.
Do you ever go into the arena and think, it's one of the guys that you really like, but you get really excited to go in and stomp your friend?
There are a lot of people that I really enjoy beating. There's a priest called Niz, who I have a lot of fun beating. He's the first one, but he's a disc priest. Like, he doesn't play the same specialization as me. It's like he's more a friend that I enjoy to beat. And there are some people in the game that it's really nice to beat because of their reactions. Obviously, longtime friends as well are always nice to beat. If I did have any rivalries, traditionally it would have probably been with Shadow Priests, and because I was quite proud of my Shadow Priest in Season 14 MOP. Like, I was the highest on the ladder, and I had all this going for me. So that was my first time really feeling that power of possibly being the best. Like, Zuniaki wasn't playing at the time. I was easily the highest rated one, and so then if I lost to Shadow Priest then perhaps I would get a little upset. but I think suddenly these days, after I've been playing the game quite a while competitively, I would never have said that I was the best at any of the classes. Like, I reckon there's a lot of other players that play on my level in all the classes I play, suddenly these days. And yeah, I mean, of course I like to beat people. Like, I'm a competitive person. If I wasn't a competitive person, I wouldn't succeed in competitions. But I wouldn't say that I have any hatreds or anything like that.
Okay. Last question. Kreider writes, and I know you actually, before I'll preface this with, you did go to school for economics, right?
Hmm.
And but he writes, did you always want to play WoW professionally, or play any game professionally? I'll add to that. If not, what profession did you want to pursue? Has WoW had a positive or negative impact on other aspects of your life?
Okay. Well, I certainly think. Well, the first thing about competitiveness, I guess, is like, not many people know this about me, but I was actually a competitive chess player before I was a competitive WoW player, and I represented my country multiple times when I was a junior at chess, which was really exciting, and I had a lot of fun doing that. But after a little while, like, I played the game pretty solidly for like 10 years, so it did get a little bit tiresome for me, and there were other exciting things I was going through, because I was going through that age of life where everything's exciting and new. And one of the things I really did enjoy at school was my economics, and therefore, after enjoying it at A level, which is, I think, the equivalent of high school for my country, I went on to study at university. And certainly in my mind and in my parents' mind, it would have been a very viable career option for me. It's certainly something I was strongly considering, and it is something I still strongly consider, to be honest. Some sort of business or finance role is something that I would feel comfortable doing. But ever since I've always enjoyed games. So I always spend a lot of my time playing games, and the fact that I was able to make so much out of WoW, I mean, I've made a lot of success, a reasonable amount of money. I met my girlfriend playing WoW, and like, all these things have really had a positive effect on my life compared to perhaps the way I used to play games and like overplay them and not achieve too much. So that's something that's been really nice for me. And now I'm at the stage of my life where I finished my studies. My studies perhaps could have gone better if I wasn't playing WoW, but the fact that I completed them is something that I'm proud of. And now I am at the junction where I have to decide what I want to do as a career in my life. So something like, the thing I'm really passionate about is esports right now. So if I could find a way of pushing forward as someone in esports, whether that be a competitor or as someone that organizes events or just generally promotes it, that would be something that would be really, really exciting for me. But my fallback plan would always be to be, yeah.
Do some business. I can tell
Yeah,
you,
exactly.
as a business owner, there are definitely some ups and downs, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Think I'd rather play WoW professionally.
Yeah.
But
Well, I think playing WoW professionally is difficult. Like, I have to find ways of using what I've learned in the industry, and
mhm.
by being so invested in esports, I have to have a more open mind to actually form a career, because WoW's a great game, but games like this, like Blizzard, won't support it forever. Eventually it will be replaced by something new, and it's possible to transfer your skills, but I think if you want to have a stable career and stuff like this, you do need to have a slightly more open mind than just thinking I'll be a professional WoW player for my entire life.
And I feel like maybe Europe pushes their esports stuff maybe a little bit more than NA. There's definitely a lot of more live events and stuff like that, the dream hacks and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like that.
exactly.
I mean, there's been
Yeah, CS
some.
is a really, really big thing in Europe, and certainly in Sweden and Scandinavia, DreamHack, all these events are really, really big, yeah. for sure.
Okay, well, that is all the questions. That's all I have for you. Is there any shout outs you'd like to do or tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, so I do stream occasionally. I did try to stream more full time, but I haven't had the greatest success in getting viewers, and I don't stream so much anymore, but I will be streaming from time to time on twitch.tv/Healingstat. I also have a Twitter, which is Twitter /Healingstat. Those are the main places you can find me, and I don't have any particular shoutouts I can say I can think of right now. But yeah, I'd just like to say thank you for your time, and thanks for watching those at home.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show. It was a good show, good interview. And if you guys would like to find us, you can find us Mondays at actually at 5:30 PST. I did it a little bit earlier for Talby since it's 2 in the morning now for him.
Yeah, that's quite late.
So we will see you guys. I won't be back for probably at least a month since my wife's having a child on Friday. We're going to take a small hiatus.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. You can find the podcast at QPop Podcast on SoundCloud. You can find it at QPop Podcast on iTunes. You can find it on Stitcher or any other podcast app. It'll also be unedited to watch on YouTube and unedited on Twitch every single week. And I should have the SoundCloud up tomorrow on this Tuesday, edited. So I would like to thank everybody. I'd like to thank my sponsor, Warsong Battalion. And thanks for coming to QPop Podcast. I will see you guys next time.
Okay, awesome.